up, everybody? Scuff D here, and got a couple things going on today. First off, Everguild has put up a preemptive patch notes for an upcoming patch that is supposed to be out by the end of this week. So we're going to talk about those changes. We're going to go over those and see what this means, what specifically is affected, and what Warlord might not be seeing as much play as a result of it. But first and foremost, I want to get into the results of my player vote. Player vote ended Sunday at midnight. Ran it for a little over a week. Up on the Discord, posting morning, posting night, trying to get votes for it. I got close to 20, I think 20, 21, 19, somewhere in there, total votes, which isn't bad. It's not great, but I think the highest vote I had was about 40 or 50, so a little less turnout. However, all the votes were very enthusiastic, very opinionated, if you were. Opinionated, because this player vote here, we were talking about cards from the Extermination set, which is, well, shoot, they broke up the icons, I forgot about that, but it's cards from the Iron Warriors faction, from the Alpha Legion faction, and from the Night Lords faction, as well as the neutral cards that were in that set. And that set, Extermination, is a really good set. It's a really good set. Just a lot of cards to choose from, a lot of options in there. And I gotta tell you, the voting, it was really close. At the very end, I think a couple cards kind of pulled ahead, but I mean, everything was off by only like 1 or 2 votes. Even the odd recommendations were good cards. There's just so many good cards in the set. There could only be 3 that are chosen. So without further ado, let's talk about them. First off and foremost, we got one coming from the Alpha Legion, which should not be a surprise. The Alpha Legion are a solid faction. They're not as performing as awesomely as they once were. However, they have always held a very strong position since they released. And really, let's be honest, it was more since they were released following Alfarius in the shop on April Fool's Day, which I think was within a month, 2 or 3 weeks of the faction being new. So players were able to pick up a Primarch right out the gate for 1,600 gems, and then play with the Alpha Legion. And I think that really just made them shoot up in terms of popularity right out the gate, because they were a tricky Legion to play. But when you give everybody a Primarch, people are going to go crazy with it. Horus. Anyways, Artillan Score comes in at number 3, and he is just a great card. I think he was one of my first, he was my second Alpha Legion Legendary. My first one was the Hurtado Bronzy, Hurtado Bronzy. But Artillan Score here is great for so many reasons. Number 1, his rally ability is crazy. It deals 3 damage to the enemy Warlord, and you can stun all enemy troops. That's great. That's powerful. You're dealing damage, and you're stunning anything else that could potentially deal with him as a threat, because there's not a Warlord who has 9 attack yet. But very important to note, he was one of the first, perhaps not the first, but one of the first solid 9 drops with an amazing rally ability. We actually saw, Golg here with the Iron Warriors. I'm just too close to that icon, aren't I? There we go. Because the Iron Warriors premiered first as a Erasmus Golg had a rally ability that was decent. If you had stuff on the board, it was kind of an impactful thing. But this one here affects your opponent, which is always useful. So that was a powerful thing to see as a 9-drop. It's not one that your opponent wants to return back to your hand. They can't anymore anyways with Melgator being adjusted, but very strong effect. Almost game-winning, almost all the time. And as the game has evolved, there's some new fun things to do with him in Warp Retreat. There's a few players who are experimenting with that fun shenanigans. But Artillan Score picks up the number 3 spot. Player vote, top 3 cards of the Extermination set. Now, the number 2 spot just beat out Artillan Score by 1 vote. By 1 single vote. It comes to us from the neutral card pool, which shouldn't be a surprise. There's some great cards that came out of this set, but it actually happens to be Las Rifle section, a common of all things. However, if you're familiar with the card, if you use the card, it shouldn't truly be a surprise. First off, the art's fairly solid. It's a 3 cost. its rally seems deals 1 damage. However, a lot of players really enjoy the double end swing of this. In terms of your rally, you're putting out 1 damage, which sometimes is just enough to finish off a troop. Now a Jubok, remaining troop with a 3 health that you hit with your Warlord. You're killing their troop, and you're putting a body down on your side of the table that your opponent has to deal with. And it's not a 2-3, it's not a 2-2, it's a 3-3. It's going to take at least a tactic or 2 follow-up actions from your opponent to deal with this troop. So it's a good swing. It's a solid card. A lot of troops, troop-heavy decks that we're seeing start to emerge with Lucretia, Volvi, have found a use for this at times, but in addition to that, it's just kind of generally useful for a variety of decks. I've seen Kurz decks with it. I've seen Perturabo decks with it. I've seen, Emperor's Children. You can fit it into anything. It's a solid card. It's a great neutral, and it doesn't surprise me that it got votes. Does kind of surprise me that it got so many. However, it's a widely used card, and it is still popular. So number 2, Las Rifle section. Now the number 1 card by player votes, and I would probably say it edged out Las Rifle section by a handful of votes. Very close. Eventually pulled out in the lead, but we go back to the Alpha Legion. This shouldn't be a huge surprise that it's the Heroine. It may disappoint some people that it's the Heroine. But the Heroine originally cost 8. They upped it to 9. It still is useful. It's still a finisher for the Alpha Legion. And kind of to tie back into, Alfarius being available in the shop for 1,600 gems and a legendary. The Heroine is a rare. The Heroine is a rare. It was easy for players to pick up. Suddenly they could play a faction that had a finisher. It's contingent upon your opponent's hands and card, and eventually people have developed a playstyle to try to play around this as much as possible. But it's a very powerful card. It can clear boards, it can end games, it can do both, it can just ping a little bit. There's been a few games, only rarely, where you can make it a worthless card. Paying 9 for 1 damage is worth nothing. It's fun when you do that, though. It's fun when you do that. But the Heroine ends up taking the votes in terms of the best card from the Extermination expansion. And again, I would like to get a little more votes. The voting was good. I think some people just couldn't make up their minds. There was a few players actually said that. It was just, I just can't decide. So if you're not satisfied with that, with those 3, and you wish it would have been something else, you got to get your votes in when I do the player polls. I try to advertise it. I try to mention it on the Discord, throw it out there in the global chat occasionally when I'm out there. Now we can, all right, I gotta go over these updates here. But I'm getting votes. I'd like to, we've got 1,000 players, I think, on the Discord. I'd like to get more than 100 votes one day, but we'll get there. However, quick shout out, there's two honorable mentions. They both come out of the neutral card pools here. These were a tie for 4th. They both tied solidly. Mount Pharos, which, is just a powerful card. It's very cool. If you get it to stick for a turn, 2 turns, it can really change games. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a crapshoot. However, you're getting it for 2 less cost, which makes a big difference. You can just drop Astartes left and right. And sometimes, well, I'm going to say the majority of time, you tend to get something that's good. There's a few times that you're going to get like the low-end common tier scrub from the Sons of Horus, but usually you get a good card. It goes great in Lucretia. It goes great in just any deck that wants to sit back and try to take control. Mandragorax is another good one. Anything that can heal it. Oath or Weirdmate can give it ward and +2 health if he really wants to get sticky with it. Just a great legendary. And then the second one that tied for honorable mention here is a Chaos card, actually. And it's the Chaos legendary Ecratrez, which, again, huge immense value from this guy. You see him in a lot of decks. You see him in any deck where you've got a Warlord maybe shy of Angron that is relying on a lot of health, a lot of attacking, but even outside of that, he goes good in so many decks because he's stealth. He can heal. You can use him for several turns if you want. You can just have him stealth. You don't have to use his healing. If you want to use him just to attack for 2, or you want to pump him up, you want to give him a Mark of Chaos, whatever you want to do with it, he's a great legendary. He's a low cost. He's got great utility value and great long-term value. The longer he's on the table, the more impact he has to your game. There's a lot of decks out there. Lucretia getting an Ecratrez and you don't have stealth removal, you you will have a huge uphill battle. The same thing goes for Ferrus Manus, who can, just pay cost and keep healing him and pumping him and healing him and pumping him and healing and pumping and healing. That's what Ferrus is doing with his iron hands. He's pumping iron. That was a dumb joke. That was a dumb Iron Hands joke, but I don't apologize for it. I don't apologize for that. So anyways, Equitrez, Mount Pharos, honorable mentions they actually came in one vote under Attilan's score, and they tied for that. So I mean, that third place spot could have been any one of those three. It just edged out at the end there. And so that's it. Player votes. Top 3 Extermination cards, as chosen by the players who took the time out of their day to give me their opinion. That's what matters. That's how we get these votes, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, do something about it. I challenge you to vote in these player polls if they truly matter to you. If you've just seen these and you're like, that's not true at all, well then make it count. Make your vote heard, because I do hear every vote. I tally them up, and that's how we get these things. So,
we interrupt this content to bring you a special public service announcement.
Scuff D here. Every day, hundreds of deck slots go abandoned and deleted because their owners don't have time or room to make for new decks, new warlords. New warlords go without homes. Meme decks go without testing. And meta decks are left to rot. There are a lot of hungry, starving deck types out there because they don't have enough deck slots. For just 5 seconds of your time, asking Everguild to provide us with deck slots to make homes for all these refugees, all these starving ideas and memes and warlords, we can work together to bring deck slots.
With that being said, let's talk about what is upcoming. I'm going to pull up my window here, and I'm going to get into the Discord, and we're going to go over the list. We've got some patches coming, or a patch rather, that's expected by the end of the week. And this is actually the first time that we've had this from Everguild, where they've given us a preemptive view as far as the expected patch, which I think is great. I'd like to see these trends continue. There's been some really good action on the part of Everguild in terms of engaging their player community lately. They put up the player calendar on their website. I think this last Q&A was really, really informative, and they actually gave us some information, not just toyed with our emotions. This little preemptive, here's the changes that are coming, was something that the players had asked for. Could we know these things in advance, so maybe we can give you some heads up that there's going to be some problems? It's not quite a playtest group or a mass pool. Some people are running for the hills and crying bloody murder, but it's important because it gets people thinking right out the gate and preparing for it, as well as, possibly hosing out questions. Hey, is this going to be a problem? How is this going to work? And then maybe if they're not thinking something, they'll respond to that. So this is a good thing. This is really good. I'm liking to see this. I like the meta report that they put up on their website as well. I think that was very informative, and I think that's something that the players have been asking for forever. Not quite as visually stimulating as I like. I like to see graphs and charts and interesting things. I like to see a wide variety, but it really broke down quite a bit in terms of what's going on in Terra. But yeah, we've got some changes here, and I think these are just about all. I think all but about 4 of these are related to one warlord in particular, which shouldn't come as any surprise. First off and foremost, Canis Vertex. Let's go take a look at this guy. Canis Vertex, your time has come, my friend. It was nice while it lasted. Possessed Warlord Titan is going to move. These are not live yet. These are going to be by the end of the week. So as we're looking at these right now, these are how they stand on September 23rd at 9 o'clock at night. This video is going to go up September 24th in the morning. So, this might be the final 24 hours 48 hours. You never know. Get a good look, get a good peek. But he's going from initiative low to initiative very low. So he's going to be going last every game unless he's in a mirror match currently. However, very important to note here, this very low initiative is a big thing because for the longest time, players have asked, can something else be done with the initiative? 3-tier initiative seems too lame, low, medium, high. There's not enough distinction, difference there. Can we do something about it? Can we? I've always asked for like a D6 with modifiers initiative or a 5-tier, and I think this is a sign that we might be moving to a 5-tier initiative because we could get a very low, we could get a very high, and then suddenly we've got very low, low, medium, high, very high. We can go back to all the warlords, adjust initiative as necessary for a few, not all, but for a few, and that would really shake things up. Some low initiative warlords could become medium, some medium would stay, some high would go very high, and some high would maybe drop down to regular high. I don't know. It's a 5-tier system. It could be crazy if we go that way, and I think this is an indication that we will be going that way. So that's important. I think, and realistically, it makes sense. Why would a giant titan get the draw on Ornithov and go first? Well, because he didn't see it. No. So Canis Vertex going last in 99% of the matches, minus mirror matches. That's going to make a lot of sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then next off, we're looking at right now at the neutral card pool here. So we've looked at the Canis Vertex, Velaterus, and they've gone through quite a few of these units and troops and abilities. Velaterus is going to have an ability, instead of dealing 3 damage to a random enemy troop, his ability is going to target non-warlord enemies. So what that means is those warlord titan arms, the power fists, and the lasers, the multi-las cannon, laser cannon. Depending on where you are in the world, they pronounce it laser cannon or las cannon, from what I understand. I've always pronounced it las, but I understand that some people say laser, like a laser. But there's not a Z, which is why I go las. Regardless, he's going to be able to fling that damage out there on the Titan weapons. In addition to that, and you're going to see this with a lot of these units that we're going to be talking about, missile battery can do the same thing to a non-warlord unit, which means it can do it to Titan arms. It can deal 5 damage and stun that Titan arm. I mean, you got to play missile battery, but whatever. It's legit. It's a legit request. Crack grenade. Now, crack grenade not only is going to be able to do 5 damage to a vehicle troop, as well as a warlord Titan weapon. That's going to say vehicle or Titan weapon, but it's also going to be able to deal 5 damage to a structure. That I like. Crack grenade is edging a little bit closer to semi-staple, very good playability for direct damage. Dealing 5 damage to Mount Pharos for 3 cost is very solid. I like that a lot. Or as well as just being able to deal with a bunker or an underground fort. It makes sense. You know, crack grenades are useful in the tabletop game for that as well. So I like to see that little bit of upgrade. That's very cool. But yeah, 5 damage to the Titan weapons as well. A good exchange. Eritan. Now, Eritan's getting a little tweak here. Eritan is going from dealing 3 damage to it for every enemy troop to dealing 2 damage to it for every enemy. So for 5 damage, if you have a fully functioning Titan and they don't have any troops out, you're paying 5 to deal 10 damage to a the non-head, if you were, of the Titan, and then you can just trail. I mean, geez, that's half the life. That is half the life of some of their weapons. My God, for 5, that's awesome. That should be considered by some decks. And in terms of the Titan versus Titan matchup, this is a card to really stick it with. So very powerful. Won't deal 3, but will deal 2. And at the same time, against 2 or 3 units, warlord units, your 5 might not do as much damage as it used to do. So you have to pay that in mind if you've got Duke Mortimer out as well as another unit. And Eritan used to deal 9 damage on a 3 troop. Now it's going to deal 6. Big difference, and he'll still be alive, and you'll be sad. So, big difference there. He'll still stun, though. I mean, it will still stun, so there's that. Malkador's Observer is also going to be able to deal its damage to a Titan weapon. I'm just going to say Titan weapon for most of the stuff, because honestly, most of the stuff is going to be affecting Titan weapons now. Again, there are a few changes we'll look at here that don't just affect Canis Vertex, but these are almost all aimed at Canis Vertex. Telemot. Boom. Stun all vehicles, structures, and Titan weapons. He's gaining the structures and Titan weapons in the same way Crack Grenades got it. He's going to get it too. Now, stunning a structure doesn't seem like a amazing thing, right? You're like, I mean, how many structures are there that do something? That is a damn good question. I'll be honest with you, because a stunned Mount Pharos is still going to give you its relentless ability. But stunning command post is nice, and we might see structures down the way with the release of the Cult expansion that do something. So, I guess he could stun missile battery. But stunning all Titan weapons, that's solid. Because that late in the game, if you're a Titan player and you've built up and you've got your 8 energy, you're like, okay, I'm just going to sit back here and I'm going to be able to deal 8 damage to whatever you drop. And then they drop Telemont, and you don't have the ability to respond to that. Yeah, I like that. Seek and Destroy. Guess what? Seek and Destroy, pretty basic, pretty simple. 3 damage to an enemy troop and Titan weapon. And here's an interesting one. Doesn't see a lot of play yet, but Possess is going to give any non-warlord enemy, which includes Titan weapons, this ability. So if you're getting a little funky and crazy, you could possess a Las cannon from the Titan, and then at the start of their turn, it's going to deal 2 damage to that fist and 2 damage to the head each turn. That's annoying. That's kind of cool. And it kind of goes, I mean, let's be fair. You can't say like, well, how can you possess a Titan? Because it says possessed Warlord Titan. That's how. Don't. So those are the neutral cards. Let's take a look here at some of the changes. Well, actually all the changes. As far as that we're going to see with the legions. Ezekiel Abaddon, his ability is also going to be able to affect Titan weapons. I would like to see a little bit more here, but I think with the 5-tier system, we might see his initiative change. That might be beneficial. Or if his initiative stays the same, then Horus Lupercal could go up to high. Horus needs to return to high, and that would be the prime thing to do that. So we'll see. That's it for the Sons of Horus. We're not getting farther into them. Now, you want to know who's really got some crazy stuff going on? The Iron Hands are going to get some nice boosts. First off, I'm kind of okay with this, finally, with the Storm. The enemy card reduction here is going to only apply to enemy troops. So instead of enemy cards, enemy troops cost 5 less until your next turn, which is great for a lot of reasons. Number one, you're not letting your opponent just dump and cycle or do something stupid like play Hurtado Bronzy and then infinite traps for 9 hours and then make you log off because your deck is 5,000 cards. It's happened. It happened to a player, and it was great. It was great stuff, and at the same time, it was not great stuff. But it's going to let them play troops for 5 less. This is not related to Canis Vertex. This is a non-Canis Vertex card, but finally the Storm for 1 energy. Decent ability. You can follow it up after dropping 2 or 3 troops. Pay that, give them frontline, give them survivor 1, and then force your opponent to have the ability. You're not really forcing them, but you're giving them the ability to drop a bunch of their troops too. I like that they finally did it in such a way that it rewards the concept of the Storm and the Hammer. And if you're not familiar with the Storm and the Hammer, wiki it up, check it out. Amadeus Duquesne created this thing, and there was a story in there where they were fighting orcs, and basically they just raised Storm and they bombed the crap out of the orcs and got them all riled up and got them all pissed and got them all charging the front lines, and then they dropped the Hammer, which was just a bunch of Iron Hands behind them, and just what are you gonna do? That's kind of the theory here. Is you play the Storm, your opponent gets all right, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna play these nasty cards, and then you play the Hammer and you deal 7 damage to all their troops, and then they cry. That's the theory. That's the way it's supposed to work. So, very curious to see if we'll be able to see that strategy in action. We might see it. You never know. But I like the fact that we finally rewarded that. Hey, speaking of the hammer, guess what? Warlord weapons. Titan Warlord weapons. It's going to be able to deal this damage, which is crazy. This is almost, I mean, late game, if you're playing up against a Titan, you almost want to just build your hand up. See if you can take the damage. And if you're playing Iron Warriors, to be fair, you should be able to, between Servo Arms and Captain Kagos and, you know, a Bionic Eye, if you want to go that route, or Deus Ex Verum. You should be able to last the long term. 9-card hand, play the hammer, 9 damage to all Titan parts. And then if you've played out throughout the game, you've got a weakened Titan arm, which blows up, which then blows up the other Titan arm, and then chain reaction. I want to see it happen, and it's possible, and this card is powerful. But we're not done with the Iron Hands, because Rapier Laser can deal their damage to a Titan weapon. Now, they're semi-vulnerable with their 6 health, kind of a high cost, but if you can stick it, you can deal 8 damage to a Titan unit. That's crazy. That's crazy powerful. And then depending on where you are in the tier of the game, I mean, maybe you play with Rapier Laser quite often. It might be something that's beneficial for you in the event that you encounter a Canis Vertex, so that's really cool too. 4 cards out of the Iron Hands are getting this thing. The 4th card is the Volkite support, which thematically all of these cards are anti-vehicle, things. This makes sense. Same damage here, 5 damage to a vehicle structure or Titan unit, Titan weapon, as it were, and then 2 to any other unit. So they're going to be able to see that buff as well and be able to stick out damage. If you had to choose between the two, you probably want to go with the Rapier Laser. You know, I mean, it's for 1 cost more, a little bit more health, a lot more damage. It's your call. I'm not telling you how to play Iron Hands. Just saying what's out there. Now, here's one. If you ask me, out of all of these buffs, Salamander's got something too. This is not Canis Vertex related. Although, I'll tell you what, I would love to have seen Ash and Bones work on a Titan weapon. I mean, just saying. That'd be messed up. That would be messed up. No, they've got their change here with Ancient Dackler. Oh, sorry, not Ancient Dackler. Ancient Savior? I think they've got, there we go, this guy here. So his thing here is now you're +3 while your opponent has more units instead of troops. It's semi-relatable to Canis Vertex because now the Canis, as long as Canis Vertex is on the table, and you've got a Warlord and even one other thing, he should be a 9/7 with Survivor 3, but I've never seen this guy played. Ever. And it's a shame. It's a shame that that's the best that these guys are going to get, because Canis Vertex is very mean, very cruel to them with that las cannon, being able to deal out the 1 and then the 1. It can really pop through these Survivor 1 guys, and that makes games with the or the Numian ability or Chaplain Xavier's rally effect. I mean, it really makes it an uphill battle for them to do anything with their sacrifice and their Survivor. So I would have liked to have seen them gotten more. They got something, but it's not even a card I think anybody plays with. So we'll see. We'll see what that goes. Going back to the Death Guard here, Durak Rask, Titan weapon. His ability is going to be able to deal 4 damage. Not the destroyed structures and vehicles and Titan weapons by attacking them. That would be just as Durak Rask's ability can now target damaged Titan weapons. I'm 100% certain that won't be a passive that he destroys Titan weapons when he attacks them. He will, however, be able to deal 4 damage to a damaged Titan weapon. That makes a big difference. So he'll be able to pay 2 and just consistently deal 4. In a way, he can kind of trade damage. You know, every turn a Titan can deal 4 damage to him. Every turn he can deal 4 damage to a Titan weapon for 2 energy, and then continue to play Death Guard cards and effects. So I think Rask is strong in that regard. Night Lords, Maudrum, who has seen already an adjustment. This passive, his Relentless, is going to damage Titan weapons or Titan parts if they are not Titan, not the main Warlord, but the rest of the body, the rest of the weapons, as it were, if they're damaged, which over the course of a game can stack up. It's going to take a lot to really make that go. However, to be fair, they've got less health, right? I don't know. I mean, it's good to see. It is good to see because you land a single, informant network early on in the game, and then the rest of the game you're dealing 1 damage at the start of each of your turns. So if you can manage to make the game last long enough, you can, possibly just destroy them by flaying the Titan. Who knows? Who knows? Here is another non-Canis Vertex buff, and one that I think a lot of people have asked for a while. A lot that makes sense. Night Scythes, their ability, their rally is no longer going to force you to target your troop. If there's no other troops out in play that have 2 or less attack, right now, currently, Night Scythes, like if you've got a Recon Talon and they've got, no troops of 2 or less attack, when these guys come in, you have to destroy your Recon Talon, which sucks because then you can't use your Recon Talon to give Night Scythes flank. So it kind of makes them a dead in the water card. They're not going to have that anymore. That's not going to force them to do that, which means they're going to be much more useful. And a 6 attack terror with flank is pretty nasty. In addition to that, the ability to destroy a troop, destroy a Jubok, destroy a mortar carrier, kill something else. That's very strong. That's very powerful. So these guys could see some play side by side of Reaper of Kaldrak, or maybe just by themselves. And it should be noted that with the changes to Melgator, they can't be returned to your hand. So they're going to be sticky and they're going to be nasty. And at 5 health, 6 attack, that's staying out of the range of Vorax. You're going to have to use higher flank, or you're going to have to do some damage. So that's a win. I think that's a win for Night Lords. Raven Guard got something here. Just about everybody did. I mean, let's be fair. Raven Guard, Dravian Clyde. This guy here who hates vehicles, his ability here is going to give enemy... give sentence 3 to vehicles and Titan weapons, which is nice. That's a great passive if you can keep him out for 2 turns, even just 2 turns, because at that point in the game, it's possible that the Titan can just take him out before you do anything. But if you combo him with just 1 attack, 2 attacks of dealing, 1 damage, or a Curse of the Raven and a Curse of the Raven, you're dealing 4 damage to all the Titan weapons. That's powerful. That's on the level of, the hammer, and then chain reactions everywhere. I think it's great. And the cool thing with that sentence works is you damage the shield. Sentence won't trigger. I don't believe if you do 0, it won't do 3. It should, though. It really should. They need to work on sentenced. But that's what the Raven Guard are getting. Now, the Iron Warriors get some changes here. 2. Number 1, 5th Support Squad, their ability, Titan Weapon. It's going to work on Titan Weapon. Okay, all right, that's fair enough. I mean, they're going to pump them out, and you can do something with them. I just want to stirring up a little bit of rough feelings with some people here. Rack and Ruin. This is how it's worded. Rack and Ruin's effect becomes deal 4 damage, period. If target is a vehicle structure or Titan weapon, deal 10 additional damage. So to a Titan weapon, for 5, you're dealing 14 damage. That's 4, period, 10 additional. That's insane. That's crazy damage. That is, I mean, that's just crazy powerful. It's mostly going to kill just about every vehicle, right? Unless they've got Survivor, and they've got more than 4 health initially, which currently the big one everybody is complaining about, the big one that Rack and Ruin used to be really fun against, is Telamon Dreadnought, which I'm going to hate to see it go. You can still do it if you get him to 4 health. You can pay 5, deal 4, then deal 10. But he's a little sticky. He's a beefy guy. I've been saying that forever. I mean, Ancient Horrend is your best bet at that point to deal with him. Just a powerful epic. There's no reason not to have 2 of these in a Custodes deck. There just isn't. But, 14 damage. At that point in the game, at 5 energy, if you just attacked 1 part, that should be enough to finish off a Titan part right out the gate for 5. That's a fair exchange. And you could have 2 of those in your deck. So, dang, that's crazy. What hasn't? What faction didn't get anything against the Titans? Well, the World Eaters didn't. They've got Angron and Karn, and splash damage and damage and damage type thing. So, do they need anything? Yeah. I mean, they run at the World Eaters. The Perfection guys. These guys just saw a patch. The Emperor's Children just saw a patch, and I'll be honest with you. Just last night, I'm just playing around with Fulgrim, testing, trying to get a proper build going in practice, and I went against the Canis Vertex, and I took him down to 1 health before I ended up losing the game because I just ran out of cards. If I would have drawn a direct damage card, Longinus would have been nice to have in my hand at the end of the game, or a fast attack troop, it would have been game over, and that was mainly just attacking the face over and over again. I think the Emperor's Children don't have anything to worry about there. I think they've got the ability to do it already on their own, so that, they don't need it, if you ask me, or at least Fulgrim does. And I don't know about Lucius. I don't know about Tarvit's might. He can pull out some crazy stuff. Bile's going to suffer. So, but they've got potential. They've got a lot of stuff out there already. Word Bears aren't in the game yet. Space Wolves work fine. Space Wolves are already working fine against the Titan parts. To be honest with you, Pack Attack Russ and Greybeard, if you can get steamrolling before they can finish off things, then you've got a big chance. And to a lesser extent, I think Weird Make, if you're playing your troops right, you make it so that they can't target your troops, or you're up in the health of your warded troops, then you're in a better spot. You're in a good spot. Not to mention late game, he can just heal himself and ward himself and prevent the arms from blasting him with anything, the fists from zapping him. They've got to actually go at his face. So Space Wolves are okay too. Everybody else here really needed something. Custodes, did they get anything? No, they didn't. Why? Because they're Custodes. Because they are the last line defense. Because they've got Sentinel, they've already got beefy stats. They can already do crazy amounts of damage with Colburnus and the spear. And realistically, they could use a little tweaking. Maybe we'll see something. That's not impossible. But it's not as necessary as some of these. Although, again, Salamanders, I feel just a whiff and a miss. Swing and a miss there. Makes me sad. They need an overhaul with like 2 or 3 cards, and they would just be just right. But that's it, man. These guys are... the changes are going to go into effect before the end of this week. And I think that's important. I think it's important to note because it seems like, with regards to the response, Everguild has heard a lot from players complain about Canis Vertex, but I think, given the meta report, that they're fairly looking at play rate, win rate. So there must be good reason to indicate why these changes are warranted. Canis Vertex has seen a lot of play. Not only has he seen a lot of play, he's winning way more than anybody else, and he's getting played at those levels way more than anybody else. Yeah, then maybe you've got a problem that you need to address. Are these going to address the problem is the question. It's possible. It's possible that they will address it just by proxy, just by players who encounter... Tell you what, the first time that you get rack and ruined, you tell me if you want to play that game again. Do you? Do you? I'm just playing my Canis Vertex, just doing my daily Oh, hey, Drager. Well, I'm gonna punch. Oh, shit. Okay, well, let's do that again. I'm just gonna... All right, Forks. This is gonna... Oh, shit. Then you switch your decks. You're like, okay, well, that's over. That's done. I'll try something else. Down the road, give it a month or 2. People have kind of forgotten about what Canis Vertex is like, and then you bring him out of the field because everybody's playing one of these factions that hasn't seen a crazy anti-Titan ability. And then boom, then you shake up the meta. You give them a little curveball. You throw a little curve action in there. Oh, I see that you're not playing Iron Hands. Well, have at thee, good sir, with Canis Vertex. Oh, you don't have Crack Grenade. Oh, I'm sorry. Canis Vertex. That's just how the game's going to go. And we know by the wording of the changes to this wording, as well as the fact that we officially have a Titan Warlord, we're going to get more. Somewhere down the road, whether they are through raid events or through expansion events, whatever they are going to be more prevalent in the game to various degrees. We're going to have more than just one to choose from. So it's good to have these options. It's healthy. Does it come too soon? I don't know. That's a tough call because, I worked hard. The top 10 lodges worked hard to get their Canis Vertex. People paid $20 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago for their Canis Vertex, and hopefully have enjoyed that. I know I enjoyed playing Canis Vertex for quite a few weeks, just in practice, just for fun. I was bored at work. I'm gonna play Canis Vertex game on my lunch. All right, play a little Titan action. It's nice. It was a nice thing. But if it's a negative play experience and the data can support that too many people are using that to secure top position as opposed to a variety of matchups and skill, then you do have an argument to change something. So I give it that. And it's not a surprise. I mean, it was anticipated that at some point he was going to be changed. I like the fact that the only thing they're changing with him is his initiative. And then they're putting the change really on the players. They're giving us all these tools. But if we don't use them, if we don't incorporate some of these things into our deck or try out some of these warlords, try out some of the faction options, then that's on us if Canis Vertex continues to be a threat. If somebody's playing, Death Guard Garrow, and they're like, I'm just having a hard time. Well, first off, Garrow should actually work fairly well against Canis Vertex if you get the draws right. But if you're still having a hard time against Canis Vertex's Garrow, then maybe you should be switching over to Durak Rask. Or if you're like, the Salamanders are having a hard time against Canis Vertex. Yeah, sorry, they got the shaft here. Try a different faction. Try things. Try them, people. There's a reason why. We have these slots. Let's take a look at what I got. I like to switch out often if I can. Maybe I'll pick Mortarion. Just spouting off things here. But if you're having problems with Caleb Decima, versus a Titan, then stop playing Caleb Decima. Switch out something else. I mean, the options are there. And we've also got two that are not seen. Valdor is not on my list, nor is the Tactus Proctor, who hasn't been in the shop yet for me to pick up. So we'll get him. We'll get him probably by the end of this week, I would imagine. Lucretia just dropped shortly, and I added her in, and she gets to join Thaddeus Vale side by side. Look at them. They're like, hey, they got the same uniform on. Nice. That's thematic. I mean, she's got the Prosperin guard breastplate, but they got the same collar. I like that. That's cool. That's thematic. Nicely done. So yeah, there's options out there. Test your options. Test your might. Yeah, hear that? Hear that music? I'm hearing it in my head. Test your might. Test your mettle against the Titans. If you're still going up against the Titan and you're having a hard time, then you got to change up your thing. You got to change up your game plan. There's a lot of ways to do that. There's videos out there. We can talk about it, but I think really once these changes go into effect, we can take a look and see how effective they are. If the players aren't putting these things into action, if Canis Vertex play rate doesn't really go down because nobody's playing the counters and people can just keep playing Vertex, then that's the way of the game. That's on us. That's on us to change. So that's a lot. That is a lot to cover, and I haven't even gotten into these nice little, guys, I haven't even talked about this look, this layout. I haven't even talked about this. The loyalists, the traitors, the neutral. Do you know what this means? If you ask me, separating it, which is cool. I like that. I like the fact that they're separating it because it'll look nice. But really what this is potential. And look, there's an empty row there beneath neutral. There's an empty row. I don't know what that means. It could vote anything. It could just be a space holder because, we've still got several loyalist legions to add. But big thing here going into this, breaking up traitor and loyalist has the potential, I think, this is just an opinion and I don't normally like to speculate, but I'm just throwing this out there, we might see some factions down the road that allow for cards from certain traitor legions or loyalist legions to be used either or. Kind of like a neutral, but maybe tied specifically to just any traitor card or any loyalist troop, something like that, a warlord, as it were. And then, as a passive, may include cards from any loyalist faction in their deck. I'm just throwing that out there, but I think this lays the framework for that. There's a lot of things I've got to say, but until I see them in action, I can't really speculate. I don't like speculating because then it's just me making up stuff. There's no facts there. One thing that we do know for sure, if you haven't received the newsletter from Everguild, is that the World Eaters, not the World Eaters, the Ultramarines are not going to be the first to join. The Word Bearers are going to be the first faction in the Calth, the Battle for Calth expansion. So we're going to see them October 11th. The event will release. So if you haven't already gotten that, if you haven't already heard, October 11th, Battle for Calth, Word Bearers will be the first faction. If you like your Chaos Gods, that's the time. That's the time to show up. So I think that's it. We covered the player poll. We covered these incoming changes, and I think these are going to be great for people to add some tools if they choose to. They're not going to be groundbreaking. This doesn't change anything as far as certain decks. It just kind of raises certain cards up to a current level of standard. I do like, however, Crack Grenade. I do like the change to Eratan. I do like Night Scythe's change. I like Rack and Ruin and the Storm as well. I like that. I like the way they tweak those as well. There's just some good things. I know some people are complaining about Rack and Ruin. It still works. It just isn't going to work against Telamon as effective as it used to. So you got to play something else. And it's not like it's not like the Iron Warriors are short on damage. I mean, come on here, guys. Superior Firepower, Precision Bombardment, Contrador, Rack and Ruin, Viral Bombs, not counting troop abilities, not counting, crazy Taranthicos Veterans or Perturavo's Wrath. I mean, don't they have enough? No, they don't. They don't. All right, that's fair enough. But they do have Ancient Rend, and he will also work against Telamon, so deal with that, as it were. Anyways, that's it for me. That's what I got to say. I am going to be, this is a Tuesday video. I'm trying to work on putting out video content on a regular basis, either weekly, Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays or Thursdays. I think I've got some stuff in my mind to do a deck building video, either this week or next week. It's going to be a little bit hard for me to do because, I mean, I don't have any deck slots. I can't do a deck building video if I don't have any deck slots, right? Well, I'm going to have to trash one of my decks. I'll probably just go into it and then just clear all the cards out and we'll talk about it as we go. But I'm trying to break down some of the thought process in terms of how to analyze cards that you put in your deck. Because let's be fair, every deck is different. Every warlord requires a different approach. But I just feel like there's more discussion there than just saying, oh, what's the best Lucius deck? Oh, what's the best, Garo deck? You can build it however you want, but how you think about it is kind of important to some degree, and then what cards do you have? Those are really the deciding factors, and then as time goes on, how do we build from there? So anyways, it's all up in here. I'm trying to get what's in here in there, so we'll see. That's something I'd like to do, is get back to the Training Cage series and revisit some of those concepts and ideas and break it down for people. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Let me know. If there's a particular warlord that you want to see a deck building on, please feel free to shoot me a comment, send me a message, hit me up on Discord, whatever the case is. That's like I take requests, and I don't know what your deck list is. I'm not going to try to make you a deck, but I'm going to try to give you some pointers and some theory, and if I can highlight and spotlight it with that deck, I'll try to do that. But I more want to talk about the craft in terms of how you build a deck and why you make certain choices and how things evolve from there. I don't know. It's really abstract. The stuff in my head is abstract. The whole thing. Who am I? What am I doing? What am I doing? Who am I? I don't know. I don't know, man. Anyways, that is it for me. Before I get too deep in my own psyche, I'm gonna let you guys go. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's been good. I hope you're happy with some of the stuff you've heard, and I hope you are excited about the results from the player vote. And if you didn't like them, like I said, man, put your mouth where your mouth is. Put your vote where your thought is. Get on Discord and vote next time I do a player poll. I don't do them often, but I try to let people know as much as I possibly can the entire time it's going on. So it's kind of hard to miss unless you're not on Discord. There's only so much you can do. And also, it's September 23rd. It'll be September 24th when this video is up. That means you have one more day to get your deck list challenge in for September's event, September's themed deck list contest. You take a look at my last video where I break down the rules for that. It's very simple. The theme is Istvan 3. There are a few things to remember when you're submitting your deck list to me. Make sure you do that. Make sure it's thematic to Istvan 3, what it means to you, your card choices. It does not have to be a playable deck. It does have to have, you can't have cards from different factions. Obviously, the game's not going to let you do that, but it does have to be, I mean, you could have all 8 cost cards in there. If they make sense to you, they make sense to you. If it has 20 cards instead of 30 and it's not a full deck, but it fits the story, that's okay. Tell the story. That ends in one day, and then by the end of the month, I'll have the winners picked out. We'll do a video. We'll talk about their decks. We'll take a look at the little winners. We'll probably do some other stuff too. And then we'll get into October's deck list. I'm going to be doing this each month, so stick around, stay tuned. It's a great way to earn a free epic card or a free rare card if you win. And there are quite a few out there that are added to the game. If you're a newer player to the game and you don't have stuff, it's a great way to get it. I can't hype it up enough. Get involved with the community because you just get so much out of it. You get so much out of it, and I really enjoy the game. I like the players. I think we've got some great discussion going on. With that being said, that's it. That's it for me. All right, guys. Keep playing Legions. We will talk to you next time. Bye.
And now it's time for Chewbacca Believe It. He's got the good stuff. For this one, we're going deep in the vaults. Back before Jubak received his little health downgrade. As you can see, he's got 4 health here. And this was a pretty intense Lehman Russ versus Barb and Falk match. And it's going to be even more intense because it's coming down to the wire. And I'm going to take some face to get rid of that Jurgen and hope he doesn't have a front line. Let's see what Jubak has to give us. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. A lot of ways you could play that. Now, I think what he was planning on here was dropping that vet health a little bit more. And then perhaps stalling me out so that the Tyranthicos veteran would kill himself. But what he doesn't know is that his own Jubak just contributed to his downfall because Jubak's got the good stuff. And he just bought me another turn with the vets. And that stealth just about guarantees that I'm going to get my action off. So I'm going to take the time and build the board now that his defensive satellites is gone. And he doesn't have anything else to say about it. Chewbacca.
Alright, that wraps it up for me. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe, add any comments below, and if you think the video might be useful or the series might be useful, feel free to share that with other players that you know as well. And we'll talk to you later.